Reviews and commentaries are for entertainment only. The views and opinions expressed therein are those of the individual speakers and do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Sheranian Communications, KHQN, or Utah Valley Live.
And welcome to It's Not Your Fault, hosted by Kim Power-Stilson and Steve Shenk, author of the book It's Not Your Fault. Thanks so much for joining us. Last week we talked about gratitude, and we've been learning each week a little more about how to have gratitude replace the fear in our lives.
Mm-hmm. It works. And the anxiety and the stress and the depression and things like that. And this time I think that we'll talk about the next step.
And the next step,
this is a progressive show.
It's a progressive show. If you've been watching and listening, what we've done is written down everything we're grateful for, and then written down, after we've done all of those things, we have written down the things that are worrying us and the positive, grateful solution to that. And whenever we go negative or start to worry again, we look back to the gratitude list and then find a grateful, positive solution. So that's where we are now. And you can watch any of our shows on Ustream's archive, by the way.
Heck of a deal. Okay, let's talk about what you want to accomplish. Some people have health issues. Some people have wealth issues. Some people have just a lot of issues. Anyway.
And some people don't have legs.
That's true. That's fewer issues. But anyway, where did that come from? Does that stuff just build up and kind of bubble out and just... It builds up pressure and you have to release it and you do it in my direction. This is supposed to be serious. Okay. Anyway. Okay. Remember we had to go ahead and keep a straight face. There is no pink elephant in this room.
I'm so grateful. That's why I'm so happy.
I'm so grateful to have you here to give comic relief to my serious nature, as it were. But anyway, one of the programs when we did a two-part series on gratitude followed by objectives and goals, we said after you've done your gratitude journal and listed everything that you're grateful for, then what you do is she's going to get over it, folks. It'll be okay. It'll pass soon. It's just like a bet. Never mind. I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, read between the lines. Here are the lines. Anyway. Okay. Okay. We told you to make a list of everything that you could think of that you wanted to accomplish, be, have, whatever. And don't limit it. The extent to which you limit yourself is saying to you, I am a creator, but I have limits. I can't do this or I can't do that. That is the most destructive, uncreative concept or feeling and emotion. You got to understand that everything is created by emotion. The reason that when you state your goal, like I told you before, you make a list of all your objectives, goals. I don't like that. You'll find that I try and avoid the word goal because it's used so much. It's like the word love is used so many places that it almost has no meaning. Goals, in all the goal-setting projects that you've ever read about in the self-help books and everything like that, have been so perverted in their lack of understanding of how things really work that I tend to avoid it. But when you set the list of everything that you want to accomplish, everything that you want to be, everything like you'd like to have, and then you go through in the morning and in the evening. In the morning, just when you first wake up, when your subconscious is still open to suggestion, and at night, just after you've done everything, including saying your prayers, then you state those goals. You read them as if they already are there. And if you, coming from your gratitude journal, say, I am grateful for the fact that my liver is perfectly cleared up and I'm perfectly healthy. I'm thankful for the fact that I have enough money for my tuition and prosperity and abundance is mine. I'm grateful for the fact that the universe will provide that for which I am grateful. I have found my perfect companion for my lifetime. I'm grateful for the fact that my teenage son understands that I'm trying to help him be all that he can be. And as you go through that, remember Plato. Don't know if you guys know about Plato. He wrote a lot of things about teenagers back in the early days, way, way back in the Aristotle and those old guys' days, okay? But also Emerson in our more recent times, 19th century or 20th century, wrote this: that for which you are grateful cannot be denied. It's a beautiful principle that what you put out, there's a law that many people who have a spiritual life and believe in the principle of tithing, that which you put out is returned to you tenfold. That's why tithing is 1/10. You give freely 1/10 of your gain, and the universe will bring back to you a tenfold return. It's also the fact the balance within the universe is phenomenal. At one point in time, I lost a significant amount of money, and it was really significant, to a fellow that was going to make a video for my company. He absconded, he turned out to be a crook, and he jumped back and forth between Tennessee and Texas, and we could never chase him down. And finally, I gave up on it, and I said, wait a minute, I'm not going to spend any more time on detectives and attorneys and people trying to catch this guy and get my money back. He's probably spent it already anyway. But the fact is, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to seed the money. For some of you that are really hurting, okay, if you belong to a church that believes in tithing, has taught you about tithing, the first thing you start doing is you start tithing, not with the intent of getting the tenfold return back, but sharing your abundance and knowing that in sharing your abundance, the universe will not allow you to not receive a tenfold return back. You don't tithe as a bargain. Okay, I'll give you 10 if you give me 100. No. You share. If you have somebody that's along the street, if you're not in a formal religion that believes in tithing, a church that believes in tithing, if you see somebody holding one of those signs, now a lot of people go by and say, well, yeah, that guy's making a lot of money telling us he's broke, he ought to go get a job. Well, it doesn't matter. The person for some reason feels like they need help. I'm traveling, run out of money, need gas. My family, I've been out of work you're going to see a lot more of this, by the way. Take a $20 bill out of your billfold and pass it out the window as you drive by to the guy, and they will, God bless you, but that's not the important thing. The universe will bless you for sharing of your abundance, and you cannot not receive the benefits of giving and sharing. So now let's get back to the goals and the objectives. That was a little aside, but it's valuable. It's true. What I did with the guy that took the bucks, I did what they call seeded it. If you don't have a church or a favorite charity, what you do is you say, okay, that guy made off with a bunch of money. You take 10 times that amount and you say, I have, if for example it was $100, I have $1,000 in return with good to all concerned. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you let it go. You don't give any more thought to chasing that guy down and trying to get your due out of him, because the universe sits back and says, aha, here's somebody that understands the true principle of prosperity and wealth. He has not created all the negative and nasty stuff. In fact, now that you know about gratitude, you might even say, I am grateful for the universe not allowing me to be cheated, and that I know it will return back tenfold that which I have been stolen from. I don't know if that's right, but you got the idea. So, as you go through your goals and objectives, as you are grateful for already possessing them, what does that tell your subconscious mind? Now, here's something about the subconscious mind that a lot of people don't realize. You'll learn when you read the book that the past doesn't exist. So you can't go back into past history and say, well, I've got all this stuff stuffed in my subconscious mind. But the bottom line is that within your subconscious, it records everything that happens. Records everything. And so they say that about 98% of your behavior is dictated by what's in that subconscious. Remember when I said, when you first get up in the morning, your subconscious is most suggestible. Or after everything is done, the last thing at night, you go through your gratitudes for all of your objectives that you're accomplishing or you have accomplished. And what that does, it sends a message out to the universe that it's already created. It's just a matter of waiting for it to be there. Just a matter of waiting for it to come. Now let me tell you the result of that particular instance. The day that I seeded that money or gave up on chasing it down.
Times 10, right?
Yeah. The day that I did that, it was 1 week before all of a sudden some of the difficulties that we had in the business turned around and we started prospering. And within 1 year's time, we had recovered in pure earnings after net, at least 30 times that amount of money. You see, you can't get ahead of it. Those of you who have a belief in God and the principle of tithing, go ahead. Try and get God indebted to you. For those of you who don't have that belief system, go ahead. Try and get the universe indebted to you by just going out and doing all sorts of good and sharing and doing all. You can't do it. I promise you, you can't do it. And you see, the most beautiful thing is not my promise. The beautiful thing is that if you try this, if you do this, those of you who are ill, literally, if you're grateful for your perfect health, you have control over you. Now, don't look at Sally's big house and say, I'm thankful that I got Sally's house. No. But you can go and look at how Sally designs her house. You go design your house. You might want to have a kitchen just like Sally's, and you might have a living room like Melba's, and you might want to have a bathroom like Frida's. And you put that together and you say, I'm grateful for this beautiful house. It's exactly what I will feel happy and joyful and would love to raise my family in. It's going to be so fun. And the more, now remember I said that emotion is the creation. Emotion is the creation. So each time you state one of these grateful objectives, you get as many emotions in as you can. You get as many senses involved as you can. Feel, touch, taste, sound, sight, everything that you can think of, and then you feel it. If you feel it, it will work.
And that's Steve Shenk on It's Not Your Fault. We're going to take a brief break and talk about more ways we can start feeling this wonderful feeling of gratitude. We'll be right back with more.
Folks, have you ever realized that freedom is spelled F-O-O-D? Food. After air and water, food is our greatest dependency. Taking control of that dependency ensures personal power, independence, and freedom. We can't control earthquakes, storms, martial law, dollar crash inflation, the global warming hoax, farm and garden restrictive legislation, job loss, crop failures, or the 2012 planet disruptions. However, if we have our own food, none of these can control us. Hunger can never be used to control you. If you never are forced to stand in a bread line mind because you do not have your own bread. It seems the only freedom we still have control of is possession of food. If we don't control our own food, events are rapidly moving to use food to control us. Freedom truly is spelled F-O-O-D. Contact efoodsdirect.com or call 800-409-5633. That's efoodsdirect.com or 800-409-5633.
And welcome back to It's Not Your Fault with host Kim Power-Stilson and Steve Shenk. And we have enjoyed having you watching and listening with us today about gratitude. We're talking about how our lives can be better. And I'm telling you, these principles that Steve's sharing that are in his book, It's Not Your Fault, which will be available on Amazon, are great. They actually work, and you can apply them to your teenagers. And, you know, we were laughing so hard early in the show. That's what happens when you feel grateful. You just laugh because you're happy.
Yeah, that's true. Also, Boris has a great deal. Never mind.
I just challenged Steve to talk with his Boris voice in a show. So maybe sometime, if enough of you listeners follow this challenge and are grateful for that voice, maybe we can make it happen.
Yeah, Boris will fix everything. Yes.
Now that's a voice. I don't know if you guys noticed that. That's a voice from my childhood. We watched that all the time. So we used to always do the Boris Karloff voice.
Oh, is that?
Yes,
is that
that's Boris Karloff.
Okay.
Yes, big famous movie star in the 40s. He played the bad guy, and my brothers would use that voice to scare us when we were kids. So that's why it cracks me up. So good movies. You want to watch a great movie in Halloween, a Boris Karloff movie will still set your spine tingling. So
I see. That was useful advice. I'm not sure what it was useful for, but you know, I think that's
you started it with the voice.
Okay, let's get back to serious stuff. When you are working with your goals and working with creation, here's the understanding. What I was going to say just before the break, before I was so rudely interrupted, was the fact that the creation, the creative force, is the energy and the power. You've heard someone who speaks with a great deal of passion, who has strong feelings. You know, in the scriptures, the Savior is talking about people that either are hot or cold or whatever, and basically he said, if you're hot, in other words, if you're really for me, I can live with that. If you're cold, if you're really against me, I can live with that. But he said, if you're lukewarm, I spew you out of my mouth. If you're lukewarm. So one of the most important things that we've lost in this generation is passion. If you're ill, if you want to deal with your health issues, state your gratitude for your good health with passion, with strong feeling. Feel it down to the depths of your soul, to the soles of your feet when you pronounce that. And if you want to really intensify it, get yourself in front of the mirror and look right there and say, I am grateful for the fact that I am perfectly healthy and have the strength and energy to accomplish the things that I am intended to with this life of mine that I'm grateful for. That type of passion, determination, that for which we are grateful cannot be denied. It's very simple. Prayer? You pray for things? Or are you grateful that for what you are? Okay, let's go to this one. Faith is an action word. It's not just sitting around drinking lemonade in your lawn chair, saying, I have faith that I'm going to be wealthy one day. That's like kind of the Israelites back when, I won't go into the Israelite story. That's for another story. That's a good one. But anyway, the fact is that faith is an action word. If you're going to pray for rain, take an umbrella. If you pray for rain and don't take an umbrella, What are you telling the universe? Think about it. If you're grateful for what you've accomplished, but then you think, I don't know whether I'm going to be able to do that or not. I don't know if I can afford it, and I don't know whether my wife will let me do it. I don't know what, you uncreate it. You can't confuse the universe. It's going to take whichever story you give it. You can't confuse God. He's not confusable. If you really want it, if you're pitching baseball and you're not that great a pitcher, I am the best pitcher in my league. And then you go on your practice, and you'll be given the inspiration as to how to hold the ball, or all of a sudden, coming across the field one day will be this old codger that used to be the best pitcher in the New York Giants, and he'll say, Sonny, you're just holding that ball just a little bit wrong, and he'll tell you exactly how to put the fingers on the ball. I don't know who the teacher will appear when you are the student that is ready, but if you've stated your goal with passion, it will come about. It might be a person. It might be a circumstance. It might be a 2x4 across the forehead. If you say, I want to become the greatest salesman in the world, you might all of a sudden discover that the next 5 people you call on are real dipsticks and so nasty that you've got to figure out a way to get around that. And in figuring out that way, you develop a door-knocking technique where you get up to the door and you have been inspired to have just the right thing to say at the right times, so that everybody that comes to the door is just delighted to have you there and invites you in. That's the way this thing works. Has to. Doesn't have a choice. It's a law. And every law of the universe works perfectly. You see, there is no such thing as darkness. There's only light. Darkness is just a lack of light. There's no such thing as cold. There's just a lack of heat. There's no such thing as an eternal law, like the law of gratitude, like the law of tenfold return, like the law of creation. There is no unlaw. There's no law of not creating. There's no law of not gratitude. There is just a law that says, if you are not grateful, you just don't reap the benefits of the law of gratitude. There's no negative gratitude law. I'm in accord with the ungratitude law, so everything goes in the toilet for me. No, that's not the case. The laws are perfect and good and true and positive. You'll find that as you get into these things that we're going to be talking about, everything is positive. There's no negative. There's no darkness. There's only lack of light. There's no cold. There's only lack of heat. There's no unlaw. There's only the benefits of being in accord with the true principles and the laws. And so what we're going to be talking about in the book, It's Not Your Fault, is all of the things that are the laws that you can place yourself in accord with. And if you place yourself in accord with those laws, your life can be as the perfect building. When you were born, you were perfect. Have you ever heard the term that a child is perfectly innocent, free of, what's the opposite of innocent? Guilt. You'll find that we're having a teeter-totter here as we talk about these principles. But there is never any unlaw. There is only just the law and the benefits of being in accord with it. And the ones you've heard about today, the law of gratitude, the law of creation, the law that says that for which I am deeply emotionally engaged and grateful cannot be denied. There's one caveat. You do not have the right to infringe on anyone else. I can't say I'm grateful for the fact that Kim has fallen in absolute love with me. That's not appropriate. That's infringing on her choices. I can say I'm deeply grateful for the magnificent companion that I have drawn to me and that I am living happily ever after with. It's all about you. It's something you'll hear about later on called the Law of Me. It's another incontrovertible one. We'll tell you about it. And it'll make sense, just like everything we talk about here makes sense. And it'll work. Everything here works. It'll be fun.
And you're listening to It's Not Your Fault with Steve Shenk.
And I like me best when I'm with you. And you.
And we all like each other best. And that's a chapter in the book, so you'll want to pick that up. Go to It's Not Your Fault on Facebook and like us, and you can watch all the shows. And we're also archived on the Roku box and on Ustream. Join us next week.
And that's the truth, as Lily Tomlin would say. Remember that?
Yes, I do.